Yule always will be an ancient European tradition, a celebration meant for Europeans, honored for thousands and thousands of years before Christmas. We are of the North. This celebration is deeply a part of our ancestral psyche. Christianity was an attempt to unify Europeans under one God, and it was a violent process. That's just the reality of it. Over time, our pre-Christian knowledge was eroded and supplanted with Christian names and faces, but buried deep, the truth remains. It's why we love the feeling of Christmas so much. The church had to keep the main elements of pagan myth, because within it lies powerful truths, charged with thousands of years of accumulated ritual. It's the only way people would have accepted it. There had to be something familiar and truthful within it. For instance, Odin, he wounded himself by a spear. Hung for 9 days on the world tree, he uttered that he had sacrificed himself to himself. He came back to life with knowledge and power over the 9 worlds. Sound familiar? Christmas. We are told that an angel appeared to a virgin woman, Mary, and said she would miraculously conceive and give birth to a son. The child would be called Jesus, the King of Kings. Well, it was decided by Pope Julius that his birth would be celebrated on December 25th, placing it right in line with the winter solstice, intentionally to claim it. This son Jesus would be the light and savior of the world, the Son of God, the light of the world, the risen Savior, he who will come again. Yule. Yule, a 12-day celebration in Old Norse, sounds just like Yule in Swedish, which means wheel. The wheel marks the changing seasons, the course of the sun, and the cycle of life. The sun cross or sun wheel is an ancient European symbol. That's why burning a giant sun wheel is a Yule tradition, one to start doing again. The female aspect of Christmas is important. Mary gives birth to a son. In the Nordic story of Yule, the highest goddess, Frigg, the wife of Odin, is associated with fertility, marriage, household, and motherhood. Frigg has her own palace, where she sits spinning clouds to float above Midgard, the human world. She spins the wheel of life, bringing in the new sun, the change in season. The Yule wreath is a symbol adapted from Frigg's spinning wheel. She is also the mother of Balder, the god of light, truth, and peace. He was considered the most favored and best of the gods. Balder has visions of his death and is pierced with a spear of mistletoe, like the mistletoe we incorporate during Yule. His mother Frigg weeps over his body, and some think her tears became the white berries on the European mistletoe. Our pre-Christian ancestors venerated both male and female deities and applied them to cycles of nature. Although Christians decided to give Mary a virginal conception, Yule openly celebrates fertility. What are the Yule or Christmas colors? Red. Red represents blood from a woman, menstrual or from birth. Green represents growth or nature. Gold represents the sun, the life giver. And white represents snow, but also semen. The Yule log, the mistletoe, the feast, the lights, gifts, and decorating the tree are all pre-Christmas traditions containing sacred symbology behind it. In those days, plants and trees that remained green all year seemed magical for Europeans in the winter, such as evergreen, pine, spruce, holly, mistletoe, and ivy, the plants we associate with Christmas today. Every 9 years, Vikings had a sacred sacrifice to the gods called blut, which means sacrifice, worship. Many gathered from around to offer their gifts to the gods in exchange for blessings and fertility, sustenance, and protection. After sacrificially taking the life of an animal, they would be hung from holy trees in a sacred grove. The blood would drip from the trees. You know the red Yule ball ornaments you hang from the tree? They are symbolic of the drops of blood or pieces of flesh given to the gods. But what about Santa or Saint Nick? On the night of Yule, the bearded Odin leads a great hunting party riding his fierce 8-legged horse named Sleipnir. He leads a band of horsemen and hounds in a hunt through the night sky. On that night, children usually placed boots filled with hay outside their doors to feed Sleipnir. Odin would leave a gift in return. That's why we hang stockings on the mantle. Some countries still fill the socks with hay. And in Norse myth, the gods like gifts. hence the cookie and milk for Santa. Reindeer come from Northern Europe. How many reindeer pull Santa's sleigh? 8. 8 being the 8 legs of Odin's horse. Rudolph was not added until 1939 by a Jewish man. For some, this changed the lineup to 9 reindeer. While 9 is still an important number in Norse myth, there are 9 worlds. Odin hung for 9 days. Thor takes 9 steps before falling to the ground, killing a serpent. 9 fertility feasts every 9 years, and there's others. Thor, the god of thunder and lightning, rode a chariot pulled by 2 goats. 2 of Santa's reindeer are named Donner and Blitzen. Donner means thunder in German. Blitzen means lightning in English. This is a reference to Thor and his goats. Santa is Odin, a magical god and a wise shaman. Kids today leave a cookie for Santa, no different than Vikings leaving a gift to their gods. Of course, to the church, this wise ancestor we call Santa is Satan. Elves, like Santa's helpers, are very much from Germanic Norse myth. One of the 9 worlds is called Alfheim, the home of light elves. They aren't gods, but they possess magical powers and skills. The winter solstice, the rebirth of the sun. Well, so did ancient Europeans. We had deities for all things in nature. The sun is the savior of the world, especially when you live in the cold north. But the deities that arose from the collective psyche of our European ancestors are also communicating the inner cycle of birth, death, and resurrection. Yule is both inner and outer. We are tied in with the earth's cycles, which affect us internally and externally. Our ancestors knew this. To be cut off from this is to be dead. The winter solstice marks an important turning point, the shortest day of the year and the longest night of the year, which means the next days will be lighter, longer, an increase in the hours of daylight until the summer solstice. And if you lived through a northern winter, you'd understand why this turning point of more daylight is so cherished and venerated. It's the equivalent of passing through the dark night of the soul. You might already know this, but even the days of the week come from the Norse. This Christmas falls on Friday, Fredag in Swedish, which comes from Freya and Frigg, the Norse goddesses. Why do we respond so deeply to Norse myth? There's evidence, and I agree, that Scandinavians, and by extension Russians, are the earliest Europeans. We come from the north, not the south. That is why elements from Norse myth can be found in various European pre-Christian cultures. It's the same story, and that is why the anti-white establishment demonizes Norse myth and culture and calls it racist. Think about it. Europeans are told that they are the one group that can't have exclusive cultural holidays, not even countries. Now in multicultural white countries, Europeans can't even say Christmas, the all-inclusive copy of the real thing. And in places like Sweden and Germany where they still honor Yule, they're being told to say happy holidays to not offend newcomers. Let's go to Israel and tell them their manufactured Happy Hanukkah is offensive because they slaughtered pagans and we celebrate Yule. It's time to reclaim your true culture. Holidays, myths, rituals, and values. Reject the fake copy that is giving you a watered-down version of the truth, cutting you off from connecting to your line, your people, and your grounding.